just quickly we go to line number one. We're going to say good morning to the director of a St. John's-based Refugee and Immigration Advisory Council. Good morning to Jose Rivera. Good morning, Mr. Rivera. You're on the air.
Good morning. How are you guys doing?
We're doing very well, sir. How about you?
Well, getting ready for our next event. We have been invited by John Parsons and the Social Justice Cooperative here in Newfoundland. Mm-hmm. He's going to be hosting what is called a Refugees Welcome Panel at 18, which is going to happen Monday the 21st at 7 p.m. That's going to happen at Memorial University, room FN 2481.
There's obviously a lot of conversation in the recent past about migrants, refugee status, that how many people will be afforded that here in this country. Are you surprised with the reaction? Well, I guess my perspective, where I sit here doing this program, I would hazard to guess it's 30% in support of fast-tracking immigration for more people than we have allotted for in the past. But I think 70% are vehemently opposed. Do you get the same sense of that percentage in terms of reaction?
I think that I live in a different Newfoundland.
Good.
My Newfoundland is the other way around. It's at 70% support on, bringing people when they're in distress. Newfoundland has been a long history welcoming community since ever. There are long stories about Newfoundlanders welcoming people from all sorts of sources and distress, boats and airplanes and whatnot. We receive a countless number of phone calls every day, emails every day from Newfoundlanders asking what can they do about helping people in distress all over the world. So our perspective is 70% or more of Newfoundlanders are willing to bring in somebody.
Well, you can count me in that number. There's always a question about how many people can be brought in one time frame, 30, 60, 90 days, whatever the case may be, and the infrastructure and the people and the programs in place to do it right. Because you can't just open the door and in comes everyone without the supports from the community offered to those families. How many additional refugees do you think we can indeed take and be prepared for? We won't even get to the security business. Let's just talk about the preparedness for if and when we bring more of these refugees into our province. Is there a number you think that is reasonable, that we're actually legitimately prepared for?
If we're talking about Newfoundland and Labrador, that would be in the hours of 500 people, meaning, 10 families of 5, right? So that would be 500.
Okay.
Right. That is, if things are done right, that's going to be done through community groups, which means that neither the federal government or the provincial government will have to do something more than, approve and allow families to welcome these other families and let them settle and work and access regular services that are there and that actually are dying down because, the population is going down, like schools. There are several communities that would benefit from having 3 or 4 families with kids going to those schools and having access to health services and so on, because those little communities are, dying down and they need new people coming in. So, there's good space for help. The other thing that we have to do is allow the community to get organized, to identify what is that they have to do, how can they do it. And that's kind of an easy training because Newfoundland is used to do that, right? So it's not a huge, it's not that we're going to have an influx of 10,000 Syrians like, small Slovenia or small Hungary is having, less population that we have, less space than we have.
The process for individual citizens to be sponsors of a Syrian or a Syrian family, a lot of people are confused with how that can actually work. And, of course, we've heard numbers like $27,000 to $30,000 for the first year that you'd be responsible for if and when you became a sponsor. Is it a complicated process? I know it is on the other end. How complicated would it be for a family to do it here?
It's all about community groups coming together.
Okay.
It's all about, groups of 5, groups of 10 individuals, 5 households that are going to get together and pitch in. Those $30,000 are not cash, all of them. That includes beds and linens and kitchenware and dining room tables, stuff that, are dying and collecting dust somewhere that can be, easily donated and brought into those houses. So most of it is in-kind donation. The rent is something that, some families have space, basement space that they can put in as part of that process, and it's going to be just 1 year. If we talk about numbers, upwards of 80% of newcomers, refugees in particular, are out working ready before a year comes, because we're not used to social services back in our cultures. Having a foggy monthly or a check every other week in our mailbox is something that we're not used to. We are used to go out and make our own money and bring the bread to our house. If I am a husband at a house, it's going to be shameful for me not being the bread maker, the bread bringer at home. So that's going to be my first task as refugee coming to the province, go out and work. So, yes, the number is $30,000, but that includes so many items in there that can be easily in-kind donations and contributions from the larger community. Say that a small town wants to take a family. It doesn't mean that 5 people are going to be vouching $6,000 each.
That's right.
No, that's the whole community that are going to be contributing there, with tables and pieces of elements that everybody has at home, collecting dust. So it's not that expensive. The problem is with the federal government processing those immigrants out borders and allow them to come. That's a variable that we can't put numbers on it. So today we are asking the people to get aware of what the refugee, the sponsorship of refugees entails, and start the route. We have examples like the Torbay guys, the city hall there, that they decided to create a refugee committee to motivate the community to come together. So some other organizations, some other town halls around the province can do something similar to that. And in no time, we're going to be ready asking the federal government to select some of those refugee families, not only from Syria. The backlog is enormous. I mean, we can help a family from Palestine, a family from Nigeria, a family from even Colombia still producing refugees. Mm-hmm. Right? So that will download the backlog, and somebody else is going to be able to take on the remainder Syrians. So there are very many ways to help out there.
Well, let's hope that there is more help offered. I know I'm involved with a group that we are looking at how to organize a sponsorship, so we'll see how that plays out. When you hear the security concerns, Jose, people will indeed have those. The world has changed in many people's view, and that would have to be due consideration given to the appropriate type of screening and the depth or extensive nature of the screening for security concerns. What do you think when you hear people talking about that, and what kind of process does that entail?
Yeah, we have to be aware that the world has changed, and we saw the tragedy of a family that lost, three out of their 4 members. Mm-hmm. And you can imagine the pain of the guy that is going there, and who knows who that person is going to turn out to. There's an enormous number of people out there that are blaming the Western society and whatnot on things that are happening. But if we are there as a community and we help those people affected by that, we are putting our grain of sand and bringing peace somewhere. Yes, security is a concern. Yes, every country has to be aware of the threats that are out there. But at the same time, if we ease the pain on people that are suffering because, then we are contributing to enhance the possibilities of bringing peace, at least to a group of people. So if each one of us do a little bit of that, pass the security screenings, then we are for certain contributing to the peace somehow.
Mr. Rivera, I appreciate your time this morning, sir. Give the folks the details one more time for the event that you have coming up as part of the month of Refugees Welcome.
Yes, thank you very much. So we're saying that the Social Justice Cooperative is organizing this event that is going to happen on Monday the 21st at Memorial University, room SN 2041. There is parking available. There's going to be 4 speakers, Jolan Poti Sherman, Ayad Sakar, Ramsey Sheikh, and myself. And there's going to be some presentation by ourselves and then discussion time. And maybe out of the group is going to come some, potential solutions.
Well, let's hope so. The free parking that Mr. Rivera refers to is over by the Music Building in Area 15. It is indeed free for this event. Thank you for joining us this morning, Jose. Stay in touch, sir, and good luck.
Guys. You're always supporting us wonderfully, so we do appreciate that.
It's our pleasure. Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Jose Rivera, Director of Refugee and Immigration Advisory Council here in our province. Just a very quick comment, Craig. So every time we talk about the refugee crisis and how Canada can react and how this province can react, the first thing that I get is people sending me emails and other notes telling me that ISIS is going to sneak in terrorists with this refugee stuff. Security is critical. We have to do the appropriate screening. Of course we do. Everyone knows it. Everyone believes that. But I also have a bit of a hard time believing that the terrorists in the world are willing to line up for potential to be given refugee status, as opposed to sneaking in and out of the country, which happens all the time. Also, if you're worried that the terrorists are going to be embedded in the refugee numbers, and 10,000 is the one that the government is using currently, and then other parties talk about 25,000. Are we just simply suggesting that the extra 15,000 on top of 10 would be where all the terrorists are, as opposed to they might be in the first 100 or the first person through the door in that 10,000? It's, I understand the security concerns, but there's a way to do that, right? Isn't it? And I know some Syrians might be without documentation, and we have to do everything we can to protect ourselves and to accept and understand and be compassionate to accept some refugees fleeing for their life. But I got to figure most of the terrorists, they're willing to sneak in, right? They're not lining up hoping for the best, crossing their fingers with immigration. Are they? I don't know.